Imagine paying dues to a homeowners association, and then, watching them sick the police on your family vineyard. What would you do if your HOA tried to bulldoze your whole legacy over a petty grudge? And what if the person leading the charge was, Karen? Name's Marcus. Marcus Thornfield. 3 years back, I traded courtrooms for grape rose. Silk ties for sunburns. Dawn in Solstice Valley looks like a postcard. Somebody forgot to stop painting mists sliding low. Finches chirping. Cold air nipping the nose. I'm out there at about 5 o'clock in the morning, pruning shears in hand, when I hear sirens slice the quiet like a bad idea. Boots crunch over last fall's leaves. 2 officers step through the row breaks. Radio's muttering. And there she is, Karen Hartwell, HOA president. Fragrance of expensive perfume and self-importance. The phone raised like she's filming a nature documentary called Gotcha. Morning. I say. Calm as a pond. My German Shepherd. Barrel. Tilts his head. Karen's smile is tight enough to tune a guitar. She points at my fence. New cedar posts. Steel mesh. Nothing flashy. That, she declares, violates community aesthetics. Ma'am, I answer, leaning on the shovel. This land has been a vineyard since 1962. Your subdivision was poured. What, 3 years ago? She huffs. The kind of huff that makes you check the weather for incoming storms. Rules are rules. Honey, this is residential. We have standards. She clicks back to her white SUV. Heels stabbing gravel like exclamation points. The door thunks shut. Message sent. 2 days later, a certified letter lands on my kitchen table, like a dead crow. Cease and desist. Claims of unauthorized agricultural structures. Threats of $500 a day in fines. And a copy to the county, my bank, and the local paper, for good measure. It smelled like intimidation and printer ink. Thing is, folks forget what I used to do. I spent 15 years as a corporate attorney in San Francisco, billing a number per hour that could make a priest swear. Real estate law. Paperwork knife fights. My grandfather's deed. God rest. The old man always sat in a manila folder labeled Important Keep Forever. Perpetual farming rights. Agricultural exemptions. The kind of language that tells any HOA to go pound sand. Politely. I phoned my buddy Jake Morrison, environmental lawyer. Likes strong coffee and lost causes. Marcus, he says, half laughing. They poked a sleeping bear. Barrel woofs like he agrees. I send certified responses with copies of the deed. Quotes from zoning code. A gentle note asking the county to confirm what is already true. Then I get back to work, because grapes do not care about bureaucracy. A county inspector named Rodriguez shows up on a breezy afternoon. He's respectful. Clipboard neat. Eyes taking in everything. Anonymous tip. He says, I can practically see Karen's manicure in the word anonymous. Rodriguez checks the old barn, grandfathered. The equipment shed built to code. Even the dusty root cellar clean enough for a tour group. He signs forms and smiles. Your agricultural status is solid, Mr. Thornfield. So, it isn't about the fence. It never was. It's about pressure. It's about turning a farm into beige boxes on cul-de-sacs. It's about money. Karen calls an emergency HOA meeting. Agenda community. beautification standards, and agricultural eyesores impacting property values. Subtle as a brick. I show up because I'm, done being polite in the dark. The community center smells like industrial cleaner and worry. 30 or so neighbors fill the chairs. Karen presides with a PowerPoint and a posture that says Queen for a day. She clicks through slides, delivery trucks, tour groups, a wedding party under twinkle lights. This commercial operation, she says, threatens safety and values. Her voice drips sugar and vinegar. Then she unveils a petition about concerns. 3 folks stand to defend me. Mrs. Patterson, retired teacher. Spine like a flagpole, says. Marcus's family was here before any of us. The room shifts a degree in my direction. Karen's smile cracks. Just a hair. She tables the discussion for further legal review. Then whispers to a man in a suit with a briefcase that screams billable hours. I walk out under a cool sky. Gravel crunching. Thinking game on. If you can't beat a farmer with law, you try social shaming. Karen launches a Facebook group, Concerned Neighbors of Solstice Valley, that's half rumor, half HOA fan club. Angled photos make my tractor look like a tank. She posts about delivery trucks speeding, about flies that don't exist, about weddings being rowdy. Fear spreads faster than facts. You know. At the bank, Janet smiles like a mannequin and asks for additional documentation on a routine equipment loan. At the farmer's market, folks who used to chat about baseball suddenly develop urgent places to be. Beryl starts growling at every pearl white SUV. So I research. Old records. Thin dust. I order a full survey and a comprehensive title search back to the days when the valley had more cows than people. I discover Preston Hartwell, Karen's husband, and a real estate developer with a handshake like a contract you shouldn't sign, owns more of the valley than most folks realize. And here's the math. Farmland might pull $8,000 an acre. Rezone it. And you're looking at $50,000. Sometimes more. My 40 acres. Do the conversion, a payday that makes ethics optional. The surveyor returns with a grin. Turns out my property runs 50 feet farther east than everyone assumed. Right under the fence lines of 3 homes in the HOA. Grandfather granted construction easements, but never sold the dirt. Classic move, rent the rights. Keep the soil. Also buried in the records, a utility easement crossing the entire development roads. Power. Water access, legal as rain. No gate can block it. Karen, meanwhile, hosts a safety meeting. She waves petitions with signatures that oddly share handwriting. She claims my vineyard attracts drunks and fire hazards. Attendance. Maybe 20 people and a whole lot of nodding. I sit in the back. Quiet. Storing every false statement like grapes, set aside for brandy. Then comes the heavy envelope. Hartwell and Morrison. No relation to my Jake, on thick paper that smells like money. Cease and desist. 12 alleged violations noise. Traffic. Zoning. Sunshine being too bright. I'm kidding. But barely. 72 hours to shut down or face litigation. The goal is not to win. The goal is to scare me broke. My divorce left my bank account thin, and my appetite for bullies strong. That night, I drive to the courthouse with gas station coffee and a stubborn streak. The records room feels like a time machine. Metal cabinets. Flickering lights. Dust with opinions. I dig. I cross-reference. I sneeze. Somewhere between a mislabeled box and a tired sigh. I find gold. In 1987, the state designated Solstice Valley a historic agricultural district. That designation doesn't just frame a plaque, it carries teeth. Developments within 2 miles of heritage vineyards require environmental impact studies. Mandatory. No study. No permit. I cross-check Preston's projects. Not one proper study filed. Not one. Buyers paid for dream homes built on paperwork that might not hold. The next morning. Harassment blooms like mold in July. Health department tips. A fire inspection scheduled smack in the middle of my busiest wedding weekend. Insurance reassessment. Even an IRS letter shows up with suspicious timing. But every action writes new lines in a pattern of intimidation. I keep records. Cameras go up. Barrel gets extra treats for being patient. Jake laughs when I lay it out. Marcus, he says, voice bouncing on the line. This is more than petty HOA nonsense. We're talking mail fraud, wire fraud, conspiracy, maybe racketeering. These folks ain't subtle. We build a team. Jake handles filings and strategy. Dr. Sarah Bennett, soil scientist from the State University, with dirt under her nails and credentials longer than a vineyard row, agrees to analyze impacts. Father Miguel Santos, a quiet thunder of a man, organizes families who've been pushed aside by progress. And then there's Ethel, the courthouse legend who's been wrangling documents since the days of rotary phones. Sweetheart, Ethel tells me, sliding a battered folder across a table. Some clerk tossed this in the wrong drawer back when big hair was a thing. Inside the full heritage designation package with maps, conditions, enforcement protocols, the whole enchilada. It proves Preston's lawyers either missed what they were paid to find or pretended not to see it. I mean, come on. Dr. Bennett's report is a hammer dressed as science. Groundwater issues from sloppy septic systems, soil erosion from cut and fill, broken wildlife corridors. She pins it down with charts and satellite images and enough Latin words to make a judge sit up. What they did, she says, tapping a map, will take a decade to remediate if we start now. Jake audits HOA financials and spots payments to shell contractors' names that exist on paper, not on job sites. Money laundering through beautification. Embezzlement with rosemary borders. We document. We notarize. We copy everything twice. Miguel knocks on doors. Turns out I'm not the first farmer to get the squeeze. A dairy family sold in tears 2 summers ago after anonymous complaints throttled their permits. An orchard down valley got slapped with fees until they cried uncle. 4 families in 5 years, 2 forced out. It paints a pattern federal prosecutors love to color in. Karen senses the wind changing and, doubles down. My irrigation line gets sliced, surgical. Deliberate flooding, my best Pinot block. Anonymous callers spook wedding clients with talk of chemical contamination. Fake reviews bloom online like dandelions, food poisoning. Ruined events. Wine, like vinegar. People can be cruel with a keyboard. Jake secures a restraining order 18 pages that say stop harassing agricultural operations or answer to a judge. The ink is barely dry when Preston shows up at dawn with a smile that doesn't reach his eyes. He offers a generous settlement, a buyout with fast closing. He implies things could get complicated if I refuse. Barrel plants himself between us. A furry exclamation mark. I decline in plain English. What Preston doesn't know, Agent Rodriguez is more than a county inspector. He's federal. The first visit documented operational reality. The second visit wired me for sound. Every threat. Every slick suggestion. Every, let's keep this friendly now, lives on tape. We set a trap with the subtlety of a freight train. Jake schedules community mediation at town hall. The kind of meeting where everyone pretends to be reasonable while sharpening knives under the table. Local news gets a tip. Investigative reporter Sarah Kim loves a good paper trail. State investigators circle as observers. Farmers fill the back rows. Ball caps in hands. Eyes steady. The air tastes like stale coffee and judgment. Karen arrives first. Wrapped in power red and certainty. She lines up binders. Rehearses her smile. Tells the room she's protecting neighborhood harmony. Preston follows, with 2 lawyers, and a suit worth more than a tractor. Cameras hum. Pens scratch. The mediator. Judge Patricia Wells. Clears her throat. And the room goes still. Karen opens with theater. Ladies and gentlemen, she says, sweeping an arm. We cannot allow one person's commercial greed to destroy our community. She presents a petition concern neighbors. Identical penmanship marching across the page, like soldiers who never saw daylight. Preston offers compromise, a purchase at fair agricultural value to end this unfortunate conflict. I stand. I thank the room for their patience and their time because my mama raised me polite. Then I open a folder thick enough to stop a truck. Let's talk history. I say. Let's talk facts. I show the original land grant with perpetual farming rights. I show the easements a neat 50-foot mistake that puts 3 backyard fences on my soil. I show Dr. Bennett's report colored maps. Charts. The Latin bits. I show payment records from the HOA to ghost contractors. I show emails. Letters. Timelines. And then, I say, and my voice goes very quiet. There's the matter of the state heritage designation from 1987. I explain impact studies required within 2 miles. I explain how none were filed. I explain how buyers paid for homes stacking on illegal paperwork like a tower of cards. I feel the room tilt. Karen's smile falters. Preston blinks, like a man facing bright lights. One more thing, I glance to the back. Some folks would like to say hello. Agent Rodriguez and 2 marshals step in. Badges, glinting. It's not a movie. But it feels like one. The whisper that rolls across the seats sounds like wind through leaves. Karen sputters. This is a setup. He's lying. He always lies. There's a tremor in her voice. Her hands shake. Preston tries to speak. His lawyers start talking about rights and process and, the Constitution. The media cameras catch everything. The papers. The faces. The cuffs clicking shut. 6 months later. I'm in a courtroom wearing my one good suit while the judge reads a sentence that lands heavy. Preston gets federal time for fraud, environmental violations, and conspiracy. The judge calls it a systematic exploitation of agricultural families. Karen gets time in minimum security, loses the house, and returns someone else's leased SUV with a mileage penalty and, I swear, a prayer. The state condemns illegal phases of the subdivision. The bulldozers come not for my vines but for beige boxes that sprouted where they shouldn't. It's a strange thing. Watching demolition feel like healing. Dust rises, then settles into silence. The valley has known longer than any of us. Solstice Valley is granted a reinforced heritage designation, with protection strong enough to make developers read twice. We build the Solstice Heritage Foundation from settlement funds, scholarships, school tours, community gardens. Kids pull carrots from soil and gasp like they found treasure. Dr. Bennett joins me at the farmhouse, and we figure out a rhythm lab notes next to pruning shears. Laughter among the mason jars. Beryl adopts a rescue named Justice. The dogs patrol like fluffy deputies. Which, honestly, they are. Weddings book out years because people love a story with a happy ending and a good Pinot. The label we launch, Justice Valley, sells out every season. Reporters stop by now and then. And I try not to sound smug. I mean, I do my best. But the best part isn't sales or headlines. It's the barn meetings. Farmers drag in folding chairs. Miguel brings coffee strong enough to fix an engine. We trade notes, swap lawyers, share templates for letters, and, yes, celebrate small wins. Nobody gets pushed out alone. Ethel becomes a local celebrity. Working title for her book, Filing Cabinets and Felons. If she doesn't get a talk show, I'll eat my hat. Every so often, some HOA somewhere tries a similar play. Word gets around. Folks call. We share the recipe, document everything. Spell out the law in plain words. Show up together. And never ever sell your dirt because someone in a blazer says it'll be easier. One late summer evening, I walk the rows with Sarah while Beryl and Justice chase fireflies like they're on payroll. The sky bleeds orange to violet. The vines whisper. Sarah points out a hawk riding thermals above the oak line. Balance, she says. That's all any of this ever needed. I think about Karen, about how fear turns into control, and control curdles into cruelty if you let it. I think about neighbors who apologized, some in tears. After the dust settled, people are messy, systems are worse, but a community with receipts, patience, and a spine that can move mountains, or at least keep a valley standing. So, hey, if you're listening with your morning coffee or your late night snack, and your HOA's been acting like the sheriff of nothing, I'm gonna tell you straight, you're not powerless. Learn the rules. Know your land. Call your neighbors. Record the nonsense. And when they say you can't park in your own driveway, or paint your mailbox, or prune your vines, ask them kindly to show you the law. Then read it back. Slow. Anyone else had an HOA try to steamroll your life? What would you do if Karen showed up with a clipboard and a smile that says no? Drop your story in the comments. Share where you're watching from. Somebody out there needs your advice today. And if you're one of the good ones on a board somewhere, yes, you exist. Remember, this power is borrowed. Stewardship is earned. And land remembers who loved it. The harvest comes. The dogs nap. The valley keeps its promises.